everybody, I'm Alicia Gadsden and welcome to LiveFit Kitchen. I have a really simple multi-purpose Mexican food recipe to share with you today. This is something that I came up with when I was hungry and looking in my fridge and just needed to throw something together quickly. So how this works, you can put it in a crock pot and leave it in there all day, or you can whip it up on the stove in just a few minutes. I start with a little coconut oil, but you could use olive oil or something else as well. Just about a half a tablespoon. I have preheated the pan so the oil's going to move around in the pan nice and quickly. And then we throw in a cup of onion. So we want that to brown a little bit. I'm sure you can hear it sizzling. You just want to cook it down a little bit. I've cut the onion up into pretty small pieces. And if you're not into onion, or if you're feeding this to kids that don't love onion, you can actually leave it out and it works just fine too. But I happen to really like the flavor that I get from the onion in this dish. So we cook the onion down, not all the way to browned, but just until it goes a little bit translucent. And I did use a yellow onion for this one. So the cup of yellow onion is just cooking down and sizzling a little bit. And that really doesn't take very long at all. Just make sure that all the pieces break apart. So you've got all the little bits in the pan there. So after that's had just a minute or two and you've got it sizzling and they're starting to go a little translucent, you're adding some corn. I'm using a cup of frozen sweet corn here. And when you put that in the pan, mix it around with the onions so that the flavors will combine nicely. And again, like I said, if you're not using onion in this recipe, you can just start with that cup of corn. Now the corn, if you put it in when it's frozen, is going to take about 5 minutes to cook. So what you want to do is mix it around, have the pan on a medium heat. So I'm just going to turn it up just a little bit there. And then you want to cover the pan and let it sit. So this has been cooking now for 5 minutes on the medium heat, and about every minute and a half, 2 minutes, I was just giving it a little bit of a stir just to make sure that everything cooks nice and evenly. So you can see that the corn's fully cooked and the onion is well and truly translucent now. You want that onion to be cooked so the flavor is sweet but not sharp or strong in this dish. So next up, we're adding 2 cans of beans. I'm using red kidney beans today. Black beans or white kidney beans, they all work just as well. 2 cups is just about one of those larger cans of kidney beans. I believe they're 22 ounce. So I put those in and mix those around as well. And then the rest of the flavor from this dish actually comes from salsa and taco seasoning mix. Now I've found that it works best. You can hear that still sizzling away a little bit. It works best to put the salsa in first. I'm using a whole jar of salsa, and I'm choosing to use a roasted garlic salsa just for that extra garlic flavor. But you can always add garlic to the dish, you know, if you really like a lot of garlic. And to get the most out of my salsa, I put maybe just 1/8 of a cup or so, a couple tablespoons worth of water in the bottom, and just give that jar a shake, because the extra liquid is going to cook off well as well, and that just makes sure that you get all of the salsa out of there. And then the final ingredient is a taco seasoning mix. I choose to use a spicy one because I like spicy food. You could use something mild and that would work well as well. So the taco seasoning mix directions call for about a 1/4 cup of water just to make that powder, you know, kind of a liquidy paste. Sometimes I underdo it just a little bit so that it sticks to everything. So you just want to put the water in there. Now I've ended up with a fairly thick paste. That's going to be a little too thick, so we need just a little more water, not too much. And it does recommend warm water, just by the way. I think it helps it dissolve better. So now I've got a thick liquid on that taco seasoning mix, and in that goes as well. And then you want to give this a really good stir. Make sure all the flavors get around together. Now if you're putting this together and you realize you don't have any taco mix, it does just fine with the salsa by itself. But I think the extra spices and everything in the taco seasoning mix really add a lot to this dish. And you can go low sodium there too. You know, if you're on a low sodium meal plan, you don't have to use a taco seasoning mix. You might just use some Mexican spices and leave the salt out entirely. So you can see I've combined that all the way through, so all the flavors are melded together. And then on a low heat, that needs 10 to 15 minutes just to really let the flavors soak in, especially into the beans. So put it on a low heat and cover it and just let it sit on the stove while you're preparing whatever else is going into this meal. Just cover it up and let it sit. So now our dish has had about 15 minutes on low heat, just to simmer a little bit. Come by every few minutes and give it a little bit of a stir. And now what you have is just a basic Mexican dish that you can do almost anything with. You could now add beef or chicken to this, and right now I have some chicken in the fridge, so if I wanted to turn this into a main meal, I'd chop up some chicken and stir it through. You could put it on top of lettuce with some sort of protein as like a taco salad. It makes a wonderful taco filling, and you can see that there's quite a lot of it here. So this is one of the basics that I like to keep in my fridge most of the time. It actually is really delicious with eggs as well. So, if you're having scrambled eggs in the morning and you want a little bit of fiber and something else to go with your eggs, then this is a really, really hearty side for that. You can see it is fairly liquid. It's easy to turn it into a stew as well. Or you could add some chicken stock and maybe some chicken as well and turn it into a soup. So lots of different choices. This is currently a vegetarian dish, of course, but like I said, adding chicken or beef or whatever you want to put with it turns it into a hearty family meal.